you and your starters, walking like that. It's really getting too much, but I can't pull back. Though I try to resist, I can't fight this.
Hello guys, how are you? We are starting now with the presentation. Is everyone hear me okay? Is everything fine on the stream side? Can you answer in the chat, please? Let me know if there are any issues. If there are not, then I think we can start. Awesome. Okay, seems like it sounds good. Okay. Well, let me see. How can we start? Okay. So I've been developing this plugin for quite a while now, and this is the latest major update. I started with something that was actually like an outside application. It didn't have any previews of the substances. You need to do some additional steps in order to load them. So as always, the plugin has evolved a lot since the last update, and I especially like this last update, because I think it's finally reaching a point where it actually helps the workflow a lot, and it's matching the development. Finally, is matching some of my visions that I had when I first imagined the plugin. So let's see what this is all about. Okay, so you know that Substance and Blender integration has always been a little bit difficult, and the workaround that I found in order to make this plugin is to use their proprietary tool and library called Substance Automation Toolkit. Usually you get the Substance Automation Toolkit if you have Substance Designer Indie version. So if you are a Substance user, you already have it. If you are using a pro version of the Substance suite, then you need to contact them, because I don't own one, and I only own the indie version. That is the one that you can find also on Steam, and that's the one I usually work on with. So the plugin, I'm not going to go through all the installation process and all that, because I think I made a video earlier that is already on YouTube, and there you can follow step by step. But basically, the plugin, you can find it in the Show Tool tab under the shader editor on Blender. This plugin works with Blender 2.8, 2.81, 82, 83, and I also tested it with Blender 2.9. Okay, let me lower the background music. There you go. So I tested it also with Blender 2.9, and it's working, because it's using stuff that is very, very compatible with all these previous versions. The only major change is with the 2.7 version, because it's already kind of old nowadays, and since everyone can actually update easily thanks for Blender being free, I kept the older version of the plugin compatible, but this new version is only compatible with 2.8 plus. Now, let's see. There are some specific things of the plugin that I would like to showcase. Like, for example, now we have these add-on preferences that will help you keep all the common parameters that you want to enable and keep and always use. You can now store them there, and no matter if you close Blender, it will remain. Some of them are the SAT path, that is pointing to the Automation Toolkit. The default output path, that is the path to which you will always save the baked textures every time that you don't have a saved blend file. Okay, and then the relative path, that is the path that it will be used when you want to bake the textures and you want to use a relative path instead of saving an absolute path. For example, this is how it looked like. Let me open the folder. This blend file that I have open right now is called example.blend and is in this path of my computer, right? See user, see my username, desktop, tx. And because I have active use relative path and I set the path here to sbsar, all the textures that I'm working on this file will be saved in this folder. Let me see a second. Yes. I'm not sure what are you asking with optic cycles or CUDA? Dirac? I'm not sure. Can you rephrase the question? Okay. Well, so in the TX you will find that the subfolder is where all the textures that are getting baked are getting saved. If I have an absolute path, if I disable this relative path, then instead of using the relative path, it will always use this path that is defined here. For example, if you're going to save your textures to your desktop for some reason, you can set here a path to your desktops, and it will always be saved there. Then I have a library path. The library path is a path that I want to be open by default when loading the plugin. For the library is where you can see all the previews of the substances. For example, here I have it to a path called sbsars emissive, and that's the file that is open by default. But I can, if I open, once I'm actually in Blender, I can open and change this path if I have another folder with substance. For example, I have this one that says opacity. I click accept, and now I have a different gallery of substances. Okay. Then Jose Betancourt, you work with the perpetual license. It can use Substance Automation Toolkit with it. I think that you can get the Substance Automation Toolkit if you buy the Steam version and then connect the Steam version to your Substance account. You can download it from the website as long as you have a Substance Designer Indie version. If you buy Substance Painter in DBS Steam, it won't appear. Okay. Yeah, the automation toolkit is not that common because it's more focused for developers, so not many end users know about it. Okay, so I think that we can start then with the gallery. As you can see, the gallery has all the previews of the substances that are in a folder. For example, this folder, this is how it looks like in my OS. Let me bring it here. Is this one called opacity. Okay, and these are all the substances, as you can see here, are the ones that are shown in the folder. The main factor is that the substances are, you need Automation Toolkit in order to bake the images. And to bake the images, what you usually do is click this button that says Generate Library Previews, and then you're going to get the images. For example, I have this folder. I have this folder that is called sbsars that doesn't have any images baked yet. And as you can see, because there are no images, well, some of them are, the rest are loaded as white balls, right? But if I click here, generate images, the plugin will start the process, an unblocking process, because you can still work with Blender, but we start a process of generating all the preview images, and then they will show up every time you open that folder. Doesn't matter if you close and open Blender again. Also, if you have any questions, let me know, or if I'm going too fast, let me know. So for example, now it's finishing some of the substances. It's still generating them. All this is real time. So this is the kind of time and performance that you can expect. And when they are ready, then you have all the images here. And if I close, let me, for example, save here my blend file. Let's close it. And let me open it again. Okay, file, recent. And now every time I open it, I still have the images on the previews. If I change the folder, for example, let me change it to opacity again. Then these are the new. And if I change back to the original folder that I had, that was sbsars, click accept, then I have them again, because they will work now. Once after creating the previews the first time, they will keep working. Okay, then let's create some substances. So, for example, there are two things before creating a substance that usually people ask about. One is this part that is assigned to selected. What this part does is that every time it is enabled, if you have a mesh selected, for example, let's go here to the render. As you can see, this is another substance, right? But if I select, for example, this one and click, because it assigned to selected is enabled, and I click create material, then it will bake the textures and auto assign it. Okay, that can also help in speeding up the workflow. And as you saw, right now I click here first. I first selected a texture and then click create material. That step also can be skipped if we go here to the preferences and we enable the live update. The only issue with the live update is that it can be a bit of performance intensive, because every change you make to the substance, it will be baked. For example, here now let me select another substance, for example this one, and I only need to select it because auto update is enabled or live update is enabled. Then I don't have to click create. If I change here, for example, to this one, it will be baked and create and assign. There you go. Because I'm streaming right now, I think, and to make things a little bit easier to understand, I'll turn off here the live update for now, but just to let you know that it works and is there. Now, let's see what else. If you don't want to use the gallery, you want to, instead of using a folder and creating the previews and all that stuff, you want to just select the substance that you have in your system, you can just disable the gallery by clicking this button. And then you can just browse a substance as you would do in previous versions of the plugin. And it will work. Basically the same, the rest will be the same. Let's see, what else? Okay, let's talk about these sections. Here we have the output configuration that are the main parameters for all the substances. This part that is called output configuration will apply to all the substances, no matter which one you select. It has the relative path that you want to use. If it's enabled relative path, you can disable it, and then you can set the output path instead. With this button, you can open the folder with the baked textures. As you can see here, open this folder. Let me change this to icons, and here are all the substances that I've been baking. Then we have the resolution, that is the resolution that will be used for the bake. And then we have the tiling. This tiling will be connected to this node in the... I'm going to check the shader network in detail so you know what kind of material you can expect. But let's check this part first. One of the things that are connected here is the tiling. The tiling can be locked to only use the same value for X and Y, or you can unlock it and use different values. If you lock it, then you can have you just need to set the value once, and this value that you set here, for example, let me change this to 2, will be reflected in this mapping node. Let's click create, and as you can see, now the scaling X and Y is 2. Okay, then the format that is going to be used in order to make the textures, that is the format that the texture files that we saw here in this folder are using. In this, my case is PNG. Then we have the presets that you can have. The presets can be custom made. I also released a video about how to make them. If you have any questions about that, don't just contact me via Discord, and I can help you create different shader networks. Then the Substance engine, we have the CPU or the GPU version. GPU usually is faster. Then we have the height scale and emissive intensity. These ones are for these optional parameters. For example, if you have the height map enabled, the height scale will be the value that will be used here in the scale of the displacement, and the emissive intensity will be the value that will be used here as a multiply to the emissive map in order to get a better intensity. For example, if we go crazy here and click 10 in the emissive intensity, then click create material. There you go. Then this value is 10 instead of 2. The same with the height scale. Let's go crazy, for example, like 0.6 and click create again. Again, if live update is enabled, then every change that you make, you don't need to click create material again. It will be made automatically. There you go. Now it's a little bit crazy. Let's go back here a little bit. Click create material. What else? Okay, then we have here these two buttons, create material and refresh textures. The main difference between these two is that create material will delete any existing material and will create the shader network that is defined by the preset from scratch. And that might not be so useful because if you change something, for example, if here I want to change to add for example, if here I want to set the mid-level to 0 and I click create material, then my change will be replaced. To avoid this kind of scenarios, what I did was to add an extra button called refresh materials. This way, if I click here 0 and then click refresh material instead of create, you won't have the mid-level or the parameters or nodes or anything you created previously will be still there after refreshing. That way you can have more flexibility in the way you work. Now let me see, I think there's a question. Show the studio, does it adding the shader nodes just like in Shift Control T to do sort of automatically? Not sure I know what you're talking about. Does it adding the shader nodes just like the Shift Control T to do sort of automatically? Shift Control T. Not sure. I'm not that familiar with that shortcut. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Sorry about that. Okay. Then what else? Then we have the outputs. These are the outputs that are available on each substance. So for example, here, this substance has an emissive channel. So here is an emissive. If I change the substance, select one that doesn't have an emissive, for example, this one, then the emissive channel disappears because these channels, what the plugin is doing is reading the outputs that are defined in the substance file. For example, now if I select this one, it has an opacity channel. And as you can see here, it's enabled by default. If the presets that are defined here are made smart enough in order to know that there are some optional channels that you usually use in PBR, like emissive, height, and opacity, anisotropy, and those channels are enabled by default. So that way, if you create a substance, you will get the most accurate result. Then we have here in the outputs also we have the bit depth. The bit depth you can select between 8, 16 float or 32 float. That way you can use your a linear workflow if you want to, or you can keep using an sRGB workflow. And you can set the bit depth at output level. For example, by default, the normal and the height will be 16. Also, the anisotropy rotation, because those are values that usually you need to have more bit depth in order to avoid stair stepping. Then we have, and finally, we have the parameters. And the parameters are defined by the substances as well. The general parameters all will be organized in the parameters section. And some substances, mainly the ones from Substance Source, have a section called technical parameters. Those will be enabled here. Here, for example, I'm using the DirectX normal format that maybe that's not correct with cycles. So we can change this to OpenGL. And let's create material. And there you go. Again, this is baking the material at 1K, and that's the speed that you can expect from the plugin. Okay, then what else? Okay, for example, the preset will enable these outputs by default, but if you don't want one of the outputs, you can disable it. For example, here I have the opacity. I disable the opacity and click create material again. And now there's no opacity channel. And you can see here how it disappeared in the shader network. If I enable it again and click create, now the opacity is back as well in the shader network. So let's see. Let's check. I want to talk a little bit about the presets, but before that, let's check the basic shader network that the plugin is actually creating. I'm using the principal shader, as you can see here. So, and the way it works is it creates a texture coordinate node. It expects the UV to be using UVs. Then it goes to a mapping node. Here we can control the scale or the tiling. This mapping node is connected to all the texture maps. The texture maps, depending on the type of texture, are either with a color space of sRGB or linear. For example, this here is the metallic. The metallic is non-color, but the base color and the ambient occlusion are sRGB. Then we have the roughness, the normal, the height, and the opacity. The normal then goes here into a normal node with a tangent space. Everything is connected to the principal shader, except from the displacement that is connected to the material output. Okay, now for example here I'm using the ambient occlusion, and the ambient occlusion is being multiplied by the color. But here if I disable the ambient occlusion and click create again, then the base color is connected directly to the principal shader, and that way the plugin can help you set the network either with or without ambient occlusion, depending on what you need. So this is the basic setup. Let me see if there are any questions. Okay, why I'm not using the noise? Yeah, because this is not only, I only wanted to show some stuff quickly, and it's a file that I just created, so didn't have a lot of time to configure it a lot. Okay, how we get the plugin? Well, you can either buy it in Blender Market, ArtStation, Gumroad, or you can try your luck and stay till the end of the stream when we are going to do some giveaways. Bodan says, any way to export textures pack just as LiveLink do? Yes, if you have the textures packed in your substance, you can do it. If you're using a substance that doesn't have the metal, usually it is metal, roughness, and ambient occlusion are the ones that are packed. If you don't have an output that is working like that, you cannot. but you can do it with custom workflows. So maybe that question is a good question to start talking about the different workflows. Here in the output configuration, we have this render. This render is defining the preset that we want to use. For example, let's hide this plane for a little bit, and let's show this cube. And let's assign the base material. Yes. Let's assign a new material. Let's create this one and create a new material. And assign it to the cube. There you go. So this is a flat material, right? And if I create with the traditional preset here that says cycle CV, and I click, let's change the substance to show a different one, for example, this one. And I click create material. I get this. That, well, I mean, it's working, but you can clearly see that the UVs are not working for this cube. And maybe I don't want to do UVs for this cube. I want to use triplanar projection or something similar, right? So then you can create a preset. I created these custom presets right now, and I'm planning to add them to the plugin in the future. Like, for example, I can create with the custom workflows. I can create a triplanar box, and if I change the preset to triplanar box, and I click create material, then we get a result that makes more sense, right? Here it seems like that. It seems like that because we are using a tiling of 2. Let's change the tiling back to 1. Click create material again. And there you go. Now this looks more like what we expected from a triplanar projection, right? And what the plugin is doing is, with this custom workflow, it is instead of using the UV into the mapping of the texture coordinates, it's using a generated output, and it's setting here in each texture the projection to box, right? We can do the same. For example, let me hide this cube and let's open this other one that is more like a sphere because it's subdivided. Let's select a different material. For example, select these rocks maybe. There you go. Let's select this one and click create material. And there you go. Right? Well, at the moment it's using a box, but for example, we can change this to sphere. Click create material. And there you go. It's a sphere projection. You can know it's a sphere projection because how the way the texture is being managed at the poles, right? But well, in the end, it's a sphere projection. And what it's doing is, again, it's using the generated instead of the UVs and setting the projection to sphere. And that's the power of custom workflows. What I'm doing here, this will be a little bit technical, but hopefully will be easy to understand. What I'm doing is modifying these preset files that are inside the plugin. For example, this is the base one. And what I'm doing here with the triplanar box is just adding these properties that is saying that the properties that to add the projection as a box, as a string property in each of the texture nodes, and change the connection here to use the generated input instead of the UV input. And that can, because it's a JSON file, you can basically create any kind of shader network with this. And it's a little bit complex right now. I'm trying to find a workaround to make it a lot simpler, but it gives you a lot of power in order to really create here a shader network that fits your needs if these presets that I'm adding to the release are not good enough for what you're doing. Okay, let's see. What else can we do? For example, let's show again the plane. I like the plane because the plane is the one that shows better the textures. For example, this material. And I click create material. For example, I didn't have it selected, so it wasn't assigned. So now I can select it again and click create. And here it is, right? For example, maybe we don't, this material doesn't shine up that much here on a plane, but we can select this cylinder and select here the replanar tube, select it and click create material. And there it is, so you can see here. Then I can play directly in the shader network if I want to change something, for example. Right? Or we can go back here to the traditional that's using the UVs. Click create again. And now it's showing it with UVs. And again, I can change the tiling here. And we get the results. Okay, let me know if I'm going too fast or you have any specific question again. Let me see. Let me check the chat. Okay, Gustavo de Leon is asking if for any reasons I want to add an extra node, the create button will delete it, or the plugin only controls the node created by it. Okay, I'm going to answer it in Spanish first and then in English, just to keep the answer to everyone. Gustavo, si picas el botón que dice crear nodos, vas a eliminar el nodo que modificaste. Si picas el botón que dice refresh textures, se mantiene. Pero puedes crear tú un custom preset que te permite usar los nodos que quieras. Necesitas crear una shader network especial. Okay, what I said was, he's asking if for any reason he wants to add an extra node to the shader that the plugin is creating. Will the create material button will delete this extra node if he updates the texture? And the answer is yes, but there is a refresh textures button that will keep the node that he added, this custom node that he added manually after creating the material the first time. The refresh textures will keep that node untouched and will remain there. And if that extra node is something that he uses a lot of times, then maybe he can just modify the JSONs or copy and duplicate one of the JSON presets that I added in the plugin, and he can create his own custom preset, and add that node. That way he will have it here in the dropdown as an option. Okay, then let me check any more questions. How much? Yes, it's $20 in Gumroad. The prices vary depending on the website that you purchase, mainly because of the percentage that each website takes. And in Blender Max, for example, if you want to support Blender, you can buy it directly there. If you want it the cheapest, you can go to Gumroad. I try to keep options available for everyone depending on what are their interests, and give them access to buy it the cheapest as they can. Okay, let's see what else. Much. That's great, but there's no way to control Triplanar Burn now. Okay, another thing is that, again, as I said, you can create any kind of custom network that you want. So if you want to create a weird stuff that allows you to modify something in the Triplanar, for example, you can do it. Also, okay, what else? Okay, Bodan is asking a very interesting question. Can it make the use of displacement in Eevee, but putting the map in the display modifier. Yeah, that's a request that I'm working on. I received, and basically what he's saying is that instead of adding the map here as a map of the material, what about adding also the map here as a modifier by using a displacement modifier? I'm working on it. I'm trying to find a way that makes sense to do it, because in the end what the plugin is creating is materials, right? And the modifier is attached to a mesh or a geometry, not a material specifically. But I think I can add some sort of option and create the modifier. I'm thinking of ways to do it in a clean way and understandable way. So probably you will see that in the future update. What else? I just got it in Blender Market because Blender. I know how you feel, dude. Dude, what? Okay. So what else? Let's see. For example, I have this substance. It's a substance that I created, and it's a little bit heavy. So it takes a little bit more time than the average substance from Substance Source, for example, to bake. But I wanted to show it so you can see how fast or slow the process is when baking it. Okay, so let's check it out. I select the substance, and just to make it a little bit more interesting, I'm going to enable the live update right now. Hopefully the stream won't crash, but I think I have the performance controlled because it's only 1K. So for example, let's select the substance, select the material, select the mesh, sorry, and select the substance. So now it is baking it. I selected it. Let me see. Okay, here it is. So now here's the substance. And let's say, for example, I want to change the tiling. I change it here to 2. And this will trigger the live update. Here you can see the blue message that is showing it, okay? Then I say, okay, this is a lot of displacement. I need to reduce it. So let's click 0.1. And there you go. Now the displacement is 0.1. What else? Let's see. In this substance, I have some parameters that are kind of extreme. For example, I have this parameter that puts in a different pattern in each tile. So let's switch this to all tiles. And now it's putting around 27 different parameters, different tiles, different patterns in each tile, as you can see here. I say, okay, maybe I only want to use 2 patterns. So now it will bake and only use 2 patterns. There you go. Or maybe you say, I want to use 2 patterns, but alternated, not rows. So it's baking it now, and there you go. And it's using 2 patterns per row. Maybe I want to use, let's go back to 2 patterns. Well, let's see. Yeah, let's go back to 2 patterns. And let's say that I don't like the first pattern, so I want to use the pattern number 3. There you go. Now I'm using a different pattern, and maybe instead of the pattern number 1, that is this one, let's say I want to use the number 6. Okay, sorry, I missed this question. What about recently introduced decals in Designer? Is it possible to import them using the add-on? Yes. I think that we can even try it out. Well, as you see, I'll try it out in a while, in a little bit. So as you see here, I'm changing the patterns, and Again, this is a heavy substance because it is using all these patterns are made directly in Designer, so are sort of complex networks or subgraphs, and it's baking all of them. So here you can see this block. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, around 30 different parameters, as you can see here. So okay, let's see. So Bolan was asking if it's possible to use the plugin with some of the new decals of Substance Source. Let me open Substance Source. Okay, here I have the launcher. Okay, it's loading. Maybe it will be easier to do it online. Let me check how fast it loads online. PD.com. It seems like online is a little bit faster. So I'm here. Let's see. Let's go for the decals. Here are the decals. Let's select an interesting one. Let's see, for example, I like this one. I'm going to download it. Wait a second. Okay, so here I am in the decal section. For example, we can download this one. Let's download this one. Let's also download. Let's see if there is another one that seems interesting. Okay. Let's see. For example, I like this one. Okay. So I'm saving it to my downloads folder. Okay, wait a second. New folder decals. And let me open a new window. And let's see. Okay, I have two ready and one is still downloading. Okay, for example, I created a new folder called decals. So I can go here to the library. And select this decals folder. Except there are two, right now there are two substances. Except. And as you can see here, there are two. Okay. In order to let me disable temporarily the live update, in order to avoid any more performance issues, here we have the two decals. But I want to create the previews. So let's click it, and then we have the previews generated correctly. Okay. Now I select as one of the decals. I can assign it to this plane. And I click create material. And there you go. The decal is working. And if we want to avoid tiling or something like that, or we want to do something specific with the shader network, we can create a custom workflow. Let's open, for example, the other decal and again click create. maybe let's remove the tiling and set it back to 1 and click create again. And I think I can even duplicate this. I can create a second plane. Let's create a second plane. There you go. And the new plane, again, let's add a modifier that is a subdivision surface, simple adaptive. And for example, in this one, let's add the tiles that I was using earlier and click create. And there you go. Now you can see how the decal is working over the other material. And there are just 2 planes that are aligned. Now I can select this first plane that has the decal and grab it in X, for example, and I can reposition this decal. Okay. So as you can see, the workflow can be really fast. And as long as you are just working in a decent resolution, the baking will be fast enough as well. You can you can at the end set, for example, here I am in the plane that has the tiles. For example, I finish up my look dev workflow and I want to bake the final textures. Then I can go here to 2K, for example, and now I can click refresh. It will take a little longer because it's basically 4 times the size of the texture, but it also will be done only the last the one time. And as you can see here, it wasn't that much, but it can be very intensive if you are working with a live update, for example, or if you are changing a lot of parameters. Let's go back to 1K and let's continue with the more examples. Again, if you have anything else that you want to ask, let me know and try to show how I could handle it in the plugin. Let's see the chat. Better to change the params in nodes or in baking params? Tunias asks. Well, there are some parameters that are exposed here in the output configuration that you can change here directly. But it's basically the same. The difference is that this will be the default value that will be used when creating the shader network. So if you know that, for example, the tiling is too small, you can go and change it here, or if you want to just make a final adjustment, you can do it here. If it's a particular setting, I will say directly the shader network, but because if you change it here, you need to rebake the textures. And if the textures are already fine and you only need to adjust it for a specific mesh, then maybe it's better to use it directly in the shader network. Okay, let's see. The salon catching bakes, so it will be faster to switch between already baked variants or try new ones, or it's overriding the bakes. Okay, it's overriding the bakes, but I'm glad that you asked that, because, for example, let's say I have this version of these tiles, right? And I like it, but I want to try out another one. So I can easily click here, this button that will create a duplicate of the material. As you can see here, now we have Talavera and Talavera 0.01, sorry. And now if I change here the parameters, for example, let's say here I want 6 patterns, and I select the same and click create material. Now it is baking, and now you have this, right? And I say, okay, that one is also fine, but maybe I want also to try out two patterns alternate, and click create again. There you go. Now, if I check here the materials in the scene, I can easily switch between them. And as you know, the materials that are not assigned to anything will be deleted when you save and restart the file in Blender. But that way, if you have something that you liked, you can save it as a, not literally, but as some sort of instance of the material. Okay, let's see what else. You seem to be pretty decent with the API programming. Have you ever considered to make something like Quixel UE for Blender and back? I think that Quixel has already... I'm open to developing tools as long as I see that there are there is not something similar in the market already satisfying that need. Works, but I think that Quixel already has a bridge. I have used it sometimes, but not that much. Not sure what I could add to that bridge. Maybe if you want to contact me via the Discord server and explain a little bit what is the idea that you think that the bridge is missing, I can check it out, and if it makes sense, I have no issue developing it. Showtime Gaming is asking, can we see something like a recent directory list or a bookmark for list libraries? Right now, in this version, no, but it's a request that I received with some of the beta testers of the plugin, and I'm planning on adding it. Like here below before this library path, I can see a list of recent directories or favorite directories or something like that you can easily switch instead of browsing with the traditional browsing UI of Blender. I think that's what you mean, right? Then let's see the chat. The fantastic does that decal support alpha channel? It doesn't seem to be visible underneath it. Well, as you see, it actually supports the alpha channel because the alpha channel is controlling the opacity, and as long as there is an opacity, we can see it here with the decal. Let's see the decal again. Okay, if I go back to decals, as you can see, if I select this decal, it has opacity. As long as it has an opacity output, that will be interpreted here as the opacity map and will be connected to the opacity of the principled shader. Let's see, anything else? The fake user. Okay, yeah, I think that you can actually do it with a fake user. I'm thinking of a way to maybe implement it to the UI, so you can create the materials and attach them to a fake user in order to force them to be kept after saving and closing the blend file. Okay, any more questions for now? I think we are now around 1 hour of showcasing the plugin. Not sure if you want to see something specific and something that I haven't showed yet. Okay, I'll give some time. I'll do some other bakes and other materials, and I'll give some time for you to ask more questions if you have. Let's see. I think I had another. I downloaded three decals. Let me check, because that can also show something interesting. Okay. Yeah, I have an third decal. When you click, okay, let's explain this part of the gallery. When you click the generate textures, inside each folder that has the substances, a folder like this called show sbsar images is created. And here is where the textures are stored, right? The previews are stored. But what about, for example, I initially created, added 2 decals to the folder and created the previews, right? But there is a third decal, that is this one, that is dirty perforated gully plate, that we cannot see here, right? We only see the large rolled cracks and rectangular metal vertical air ventilation. So I just copied and pasted to the folder here, and now here I can click refresh. This will refresh the and show the remaining decal that is missing. But as you can see, there is no preview. So here I click again, generate previews, and it will make it. Now we have the 3 previews. And one important thing is that when you click generate previews, it will only generate the previews that are missing. That way the process will be faster, and you can continuously keep adding Substance files as you go to your current folders without worrying about having to generate everything from scratch again. Okay, let's see. Okay, I don't see any more questions at the moment. But for example, here I now have this one. This one was the one that I wanted to create initially. There you go. Here's again the decal working. And of course, since it's a plane, you can scale it up, scale it down, position it, or do whatever you want with it. Okay. Let's see what else. Let's talk about, for example, the outputs a little bit more. For example, if I select this folder and let me assign it create material, and for this one let's go live. So preferences here again, and live update. Okay, now for example here in the parameters, if I change the emission, it's updated, right? If I change it to, for example, now green, it's updated. And maybe we want to go back to the original, so we can click here this button that is reset, and it will initialize the parameters to the original values if we made some sort of mistake and want to start from scratch again. Now another thing is that here, if I disable, well, I think that I showed already this, if I disable the emissive, because it's live update, it will do it automatically without clicking the create button. And if I enable it again, it will bake it again and add it to the shader network, as we can see here. Let's see what else we can modify. For example, let's go to another material that can be show a little bit more. For example, I think I have some full ones in this folder. Wait a second. There you go. Okay. Here, let's select, for example, this one. Okay, here I have a metallic panel, right? As you can see, there is a small level of displacement. There are some decals in it. I can change the color live, set it to pink, for example. I can disable the black stripes on the bottom. I can disable the decals. I can enable it again. And it's working. Here in the substances, there are some that are custom, but most of them are substance source. So I try to follow the standard of substance source to make it available. So that way, if you have some substances from there, all of them will work right away. If you have some custom substances, you need to follow at least name your outputs in a traditional way, that is diffuse, base color, normal, specular, blah blah, etc., etc., just to make the plugin and be able to recognize them. Also, if you need to use a specular workflow, you can create a custom workflow and use the specular network. Again, as I showed you earlier, it's basically a JSON file, so you can add any kind of node. You had some custom nodes installed in Blender, you can use them in your presets. They won't work if you don't have these special nodes added in another installation, but in your installation, if you have those special nodes that you are using in the JSON and defining in the JSON, they will work without issues. Okay, now what else? Okay, I can also show you let me know any user of Octane here in the chat right now. I can show you guys how it works with Octane. Let me see. I'm going to close this Blender file and let's open Blender for Octane. It's thinking a little bit because it's a little slow. Okay, this is Blender for Octane, right? So in theory, here I have Octane available as a renderer. Okay, sorry, I missed starting first the Octane server. Wait a second. Okay, in theory, let me enable it. Great, it's activated, so now Blender for Octane should work. Okay, now I can go here and set this to Octane. Path trace, let's see if it's working. Okay, it's working. And let me minimize this and let's open the plugin. Here I'm going to open the shader editor, and here we have it. This is an older version of the plugin, so it doesn't have the gallery, but the rest works the same. So for example, let's select, I'm selecting here a file, right? So if I go to sbsars, let's go up here to sbsars and select, for example, the emissive sterilized lava. Select it and then change this to Octane and click create material. Okay, now the material should be available here. Let's assign it. There you go. Octane is a little bit tricky in Blender, so let me remove the color space because we had something weird, right? Time to select it enabled, and maybe let's remove this and instead add a plane, and let's add the material to the plane. And there you go. This is better. As you can see, Octane also is working fine with displacement and with the emissive channel. And the way Octane is working is I'm creating a universal material. I'm creating a scale transform to control the tiling and the images, the image nodes of Octane, right? Depending as an image node, if it's RGB, like for example, base color and ambient occlusion, or a float image if I'm talking about metallic, roughness, or those other grayscale maps. The emissive is connected to a texture emission, and it's going to the universal material. this is the multiply of the base color with the ambient occlusion. Maybe I need to fix that location because this one should be here. And the displacement is connected as a floated image to a texture displacement. So it's also working fine with Octane. And if, for example, we go and open one of the maps that use opacity, they also work here. For example, this one, the fishing pod. We select it and click create. And there you go. It's working with opacity, as you can see here. We can even grab, for example, this cube and assign the material to the cube to verify that opacity is working fine. There you go. Okay, a question. Was the material assigned to the cube a triplanar? Here in Octane, no. It's based on the Eevees. In this, the ones that I showed in non-Octane Blender, yes, at some point I showed some triplanars. You can go back in the video after we upload it to check it out. Because, for example, here, let me open again the other Blender. I think I'm starting to ask too much of the computer. Okay, let's disable the render here. This is normal Blender, right? If I open here, this one, enable it. Okay, now the triplanar, what I talk about is that here I selected instead of using this cycles Eevee, for example, here I select the cycles triplanar box, and we select the cube instead of the plane. We select it and click create material. Oh, sorry, I need to select a material that I want to create. For example, let's select this one and click. Okay, it's without live update, so it will be created automatically. And this one is actually triplanar. If I select a different one, maybe an easier one to see how triplanar is, this one. There you go. There you can clearly see that it's working as triplanar, right? If I switch it from triplanar to normal cycle Eevee, it won't be triplanar. It will be UV based, and then we get this. Okay, in these triplanar presets I just created them today for the showcase, but I will add it to the plugin so you can have it available. But in theory, it's really easy to create, so you could usually do it by yourself. Anyway, I will add it to the plugin. Anyways, okay, what else? I think, well, now we are a little bit over an hour, and I think that's kind of good enough time to show the plugin. So maybe we can start closing the stream. And as promised, I was planning to do a giveaway. So what I would like you guys to do is, if you can help me out, and everyone that is still here watching the stream, can you write a giveaway in the chat? That way I can compile a list of everyone that is there right now, and we can do a giveaway. What I plan to do is, let me see how many of you are still here. 26. Okay, I think I can give 4 licenses of the plugin. I can, yes, just write giveaway. I can give 4 licenses for the plugin, so everyone that is here, feel free to write it, and I'll take note of the names, and I'll do the giveaway. Let's see. We have, I'm going to set the notepad here. That way, if I miss some of you, let me know. I'll give it, I think, about 2 or 3 minutes. Give everyone a chance. Okay, let's see. We have Bodan. We have Dunian. We have Marcos. We have Nikki Baris. We have Miki. Salstella. We have Ruibo. Alemao. We have Showtime Gaming. We have Paul Manuyan. Sorry if I'm butchering your names. We have all the posts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 right now. Anyone else? Or am I missing someone? Also, if you have any kind of feedback about the stream, if you think that I was too low in the sound or too high, or as you said earlier that the music was maybe too strong, that is very well received because it helps me improve the experience for every one of us. And if you want to see another for example, the showcase of the live link that I have for Painter and Designer, or as someone asks about some kind of specific plugin that you think that will be interesting to develop or anything, feel free to contact me. The easier way is either Twitter or Discord, I think. The only issue I have in Twitter is that I receive a lot of spam messages from people that I don't follow, so it's easier to just tag me and write something in Twitter and tag me, because the private messages sometimes I miss them. Okay, let me see. I miss some people now. Let's see. I don't know how to pronounce that, but Johnson, okay. Then I have Tiriac, Gustavo de Leon, Philip Glacier, Logan Bart, Adolfo Anselmo. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay. Also, one thing that I was missing was that we have this thread in. Let me open it. In Blender Artists, there's also an easy. If you have a specific question or want a specific feature for this plugin in particular, we have in Blender Artists this thread. I'm going to add the link in the description, but in this post is where I'm putting here all the new features that the plugin is having, as well as all the links to the tutorials and all the stuff. Okay, let me see if I can put this in the chat. Okay, yeah, the chat works. So if you want to contact me there, that's great. Okay, let me check one last time. Gustavo León, Adolfo Anselmo. I think I have all of you now. Okay, let's see if there is anyone missing. I'll give a little bit more time if see if anyone's missing. If not, we are ready to do the giveaway. Okay, we have a late entry from Pinpoint 2K. Okay, let's see. As I said, there will be 4 licenses, so you have 4 chances, guys. Okay, here I have all the names from the notepad, and we're going to start. Let's see. This is the first one, the first winner. Bodan, you're the first winner. So contact me via Twitter or Discord, so I can give you the code. Okay, now Bodan leaves the pool, and here's the second one. Nikki Barris, the same as with Bodan. Contact me via Twitter or via Discord, and I'll give you the license. So Nikki also leaves the pool. Let's see. This is the third one. Tyriak is the third one. Congratulations, Tyriak. And let's see. The fourth and final winner will be Logan. Okay, guys, you 4 are the winners. So contact me, and I'll give you some coupon codes. Let me know once you contact me. Let me know where you prefer to get it. If it's Blender Market, Gumroad, or ArtStation, I can create coupons for all 3 of them, and I'll give you the access so you can have the product. Okay, then this will be everything for today. Remember, you can contact me via Twitter, via Discord. I have online in the page now. We have my Twitter address, my ArtStation, my Instagram, the Gumroad, Patreon. So feel free to contact me both in my personal with Emmanuel, or if you want to contact me via Shuttle, it's always okay. If you have any more questions of the add-on, anything else that you want to, any requests, again, let me know. The faster way to contact me is Discord, because I'm almost all the time there. So if you write me a private message, I can answer you pretty fast. If that doesn't work for you because you don't have Discord right now, then Twitter. But again, it's easier for me if it's a public message. If it's a private message, sometimes it takes too much time for me to answer them because I got a lot of them. Anyway, that will be all for now. Thanks. Let me see if okay, some of you guys already contact me via the Discord for the prices. Excellent, no problem. I'll answer you after the stream. T-Rex asking me where am I from? I'm from Mexico. So let's see. Well, that will be all for now. If you have any ideas for other streams that you want, or plugins or whatever, let me know. I'm trying to grow the channel. So thank you a lot to everyone that was here today, because you're helping me with that. Well, that will be all for now. Bye bye, guys.
Good luck.